If we're going to educate some of our parents on just how to get started. So I know when I was younger and I was training, Hi, happy Monday and welcome back to Volleyball from A to Z. Today we're going to talk about strength training with one of the best youth strength training programs around, located in Stevens Point, Wisconsin. All right, thanks Bill for joining us today. Let's hear a little bit about yourself and what you do at D1.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on, Amy. Yeah. My name is Bill Kopek. I'm the head speed and strength coach and certified athletic trainer over at D1 Training Stevens Point. I have a decade, hello pupper in the background. I have a decade of experience working in the private sector in the marketplace for fitness, strength and conditioning, sports performance, and I have 3 years of experience as a certified athletic trainer, graduate from UWSP's University of Wisconsin Stevens Point sports medicine program as an athletic trainer, and I enjoy bridging the gap between that level of sports performance and then general populations as well as community-based services. So that's what I do here in a nutshell. And yeah, excited to be here and chat strength and conditioning with you for the volleyball athlete.
Yeah, all about player development. That's what we do here for Volleyball A to Z. And Bill, it was super fun. We met when I was actually coaching collegiately at UW Stevens Point, and I chose to work out at D1 because I was a former athlete. I loved the setup that you guys had. I loved your facility. It was really welcoming and inviting, and I was part of the 6 a.m. crew, but that 5 a.m. crew was probably the biggest class at that time. But it was just kind of Midwestern and welcoming and super fun. Sometimes I'd see the youth training, and that's why I really wanted to talk to you today. I think you guys' approach to youth training and strength training is very introductory, but it helps really set that foundation.
Great. Yeah, the morning crews, like you said, just on them, big shout out to them. They're an awesome group of 5 a.m. and 6 a.m. especially. There's a lot of active people in there, be it people that were athletes or are athletes now. So they're a fun group, super welcoming. They like to get after it. As to our youth, the approach we take there, yeah. So we have the 5-star training program. We have a dynamic warm-up, a performance, strength, core and conditioning, and then cool down. And we take that approach to adult, youth, everyone in between. And the big focus there is knowing our audience, knowing the workout for the day, and knowing what response we're looking for in a certain training block, and to kind of make that a little easier to digest for everyone. It's knowing the person in front of you, knowing your athlete, and then knowing their goals and being able to deliver a program that helps them reach that. So that's how we design our programs. And for both youth and adult, we make it super, super inclusive and approachable for everyone. So understanding where everyone is at, and then being able to deliver cueing, coaching, and exercises that meet them.
Yeah, I love that. That's perfect. Speaking to our parents, so if we're going to educate some of our parents on just how to get started. So I know when I was younger and I was training, I was a part of that bigger, faster, stronger wave, and I'm not going to tell people how old I am. But my mom just wanted me to get out and get active as a complement to all of the sports that I did, but she didn't exactly know what that meant, so she really looked for other people who kind of knew what they were talking about. And I grew up in small town Minnesota, so we didn't really have a ton of exposure kind of to the different programs. So how would you give advice to parents to really look for programs to get started?
That's a great question, and there's a lot going on if we dive into it. So nothing, I too was raised on BFS. It's a staple program in a lot of high schools, and it's kind of built on the powerlifting, bodybuilding, no pain, no gain. The only thing that matters is 1,000-pound, 2,000-pound club, getting your name on the board. So it's built around competition, which we all know is super important for training, for sport, for getting better. We all know that. Yes, there's some holes in it, but we don't need to dive into those. The science and the art of coaching and strength and conditioning has grown immensely since then. So it's a great program, it's a great foundation, and we've since built upon it. And to the point of your parents looking to keep you active, that's a big part of it too. Is Midwestern family, they're like, how do we keep them active outside of pick and rock in the farming fields or putting them to work on its relatives' farm? So we got to keep them active. For a while, it was the multi-sport athlete, which is still a great approach, getting your kids in as many activities as possible, making it fun, making it diverse. Our bodies crave diversity when it comes to movement, and that's the big thing in whatever it is you're going to select. I tell parents, if you really want to give your child a leg up, dance, martial arts, or gymnastics at a young age outside of the competition realm is going to build proprioception, coordination, and body awareness strength, unlike you'll see in any other sport-specific training at a young age. So that's a big one. If you're starting with a super young athlete, super young child, find something like that forces them to use their whole body on a daily basis or training session basis. That's a big one. And then if you're looking at like what I do in the strength and conditioning world, the fitness world, finding a coach that's knowledgeable, that's passionate. It's unfortunate to see. I see a lot of it in both strength and conditioning, fitness, as well as medicine. We were talking about before the episode on how people are kind of, well, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. It's fear-based. It's I want to prove how much better my approach is than what it is you've heard in the past, or this is how much smarter I am. And that doesn't help anyone. Like you were saying, it paralyzes you. You're like, oh, well, then I don't know what to do. I'm overwhelmed right now. Now maybe we won't do anything, or maybe, we'll just settle. And the thing is just to find people that are knowledgeable and passionate, and the passion piece, the friendliness, a proven track record. Like, do people in your community speak highly of them? Do they have people that love going there, that have been going there for a long time? Does the whole family go there? Things like that are going to tell you a lot more about the training program than the performance objectives. Like, do people in my community like this person? And then from there you can have the conversation about knowledge, about them wanting to help people. The last thing people in the service industry, like I work in, both fitness, strength and conditioning, and medicine, it should be about understanding who's in front of us, our patient, client, member, athlete, and then that means about proving how smart you are, or bashing the competition. It's all about helping people, and that should be the primary goal. So I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, it definitely does. I always think, especially in these areas where, like, when you have, kind of the degrees and experience that you have, you can really talk at this high level, but then to someone who maybe doesn't or is just starting, it's very like, whoa, there's a lot that goes into this. So always education and information is always great to show, especially to the kids. I remember even when I was relearning a few things, like I probably asked way too many questions, but everyone there was very patient and really explained to me, because I'm a why person. I like to learn. I'm doing this, but why am I doing this? So then I can really feel a connection to, the drive and motivation to keep going. So when we think about kind of your, what is it? Is rookies, right? The little ones?
Yep. We've got rookies, developmental, and prep.
Yeah, so when we think about those rookies, you really focus on that coordination piece, right? That coordination and education. And I know you do a lot of like fun things, right? With like the tennis balls, and just asking them questions about their day to really make that connection for them to want to come back and enjoy kind of the other kids around them.
Yeah. So I think we were talking about fun, right? The importance of fun. So I'm gonna dive deep into this. So if we're talking about the idea of competition, grit, flow. I don't know how much sports psychology you dive into. I'm sure as a coach you've read a bit, but so the idea of flow, of kind of going into the zone, you might have heard it called. Those states, to get there, you have to enjoy the process. You have to have enjoyed something about what it is you're doing, whatever activity, whatever sport. And if these kids or adults, I have the same approach to adults, they come in and they're dragging their feet, the idea of fitness or working out, it's been beat up, thrown in our faces, the scare tactic, you got to get this many steps, blah, 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 blah. And that doesn't do anything to motivate you. That doesn't make it fun. So for me, as a coach, I've worked with 2-year-olds and I've worked with 95-year-olds. It's always about making it fun, understanding what it is they want from it, what it is they want in life, and how can I deliver that in an exercise or a game or some kind of challenge for the day. So that's super important. And for the kids, it's talking with them. Most of the day, especially during school, they're forced to sit around. They've maybe allowed to ask a few questions, short amount of time with their peers. But when they come here, I want them talking. I want being respectful, obviously, always coming down to respect. But I want them talking. I want them engaged. I want them sharing their day with our coaches and understanding why it is we're doing what we're doing and how it all plays together. So at some point, maybe it clicks for them where they see the importance of moving, health, and what it is they're doing outside of the gym. So that's where the fun plays a part. And then as we get older, and this age isn't so much your the years on your life, but it's your training age. Even for adults, you see people 1, 2, 3 years into strength training, and now they're loving it. They've got alternate outside goals that kind of feed into the rest of their life, and it all comes from that fun piece.
Yeah, and I definitely agree. Like, I teach a lot of the kid classes here at MVBA, and I feel like sometimes we talk too much, but we really want to make a connection with these kids and make sure that they're having a good time. And I feel like if you make a connection with them, they're more willing to listen to you, instead of what you said before, kind of that fear-based tactic where I'm the coach, you're the athlete, you have to listen to everything I say. But it's really, we're both on the same page to get better. Definitely.
And that's, a reminder too. So my minor's in psychology, so that's a huge part of what I bring to the physical coaching space. And with developmental psychology, it's so easy for us adults to kind of put expectations and goals and all these adult words and ideas and constructs onto our youth, forgetting what it's like to be a 7, 9, 10, 11, 14-year-old, and how your brain's different, the chemicals are different, the structure's different. And you have to be aware of that and how you approach talking to them and with them and listening to them. So that's something I would throw out to a lot of coaches. I don't know how many coaches are listening to this, but for parents, like, I know you've got all these great expectations and you want the best for your child. But you have to also remember they're a child. Let them be a child, and they're going to take what you give them in that environment, and they're going to take it and run. They're going to have fun, and they're going to bring that into their adult life, and they're going to be successful.
Yeah, and that's definitely when you know kind of when to take the next step, right? So once you get to that like 13, 14, 15 age range, and I think this is for boys and girls, that's when you kind of know, at least like psychologically, they're ready to compete. They're kind of on this track where they love what they're doing. They want to get better. They're very hungry. And then sometimes you have the kids that are in the middle, like, I really enjoy what I'm doing, but I like the effort that I'm putting in at the moment. So when do you kind of know when to push those athletes into kind of a different area where you can almost have a little bit of conflict, because you need to kind of get them into that spot where they get better, but they're still student athletes, they're still young kids, so that balance there.
I love the idea of balance. I joke around with my coaches, people on my podcast, the guests I have, and it's about, I guess, balancing unbalance, right? So we've been talking to the children, the youth athletes, building that relationship, understanding, like you know the days when they're slacking, the days when they had a hard day at school, the days where you can push them a little bit. It's constantly having that conversation. And like you said, it's a moment you see in a lot of them. If you've built that rapport where they're honest with you, you're honest with them, you can see it. They're asking questions. They're more why based, like the point you were making. And that's with everyone across the spectrum. You know, it could be a 7-year-old who you're able to push, just give a little bit of a modification to with a workout because they're asking questions about it. It could be the 14 or the 15-year-old. They're asking the why, like, hey, what does this do for me? They're more interested. Same goes for adults. They're asking about foot placement and coordination and posterior chain engagement. Like, they're asking the right questions, so then you can meet them at this new space instead of you as the coach word vomiting onto someone like, oh, I know all of these things, this is what it shows us in the textbook. That's all well and great, but truly understanding the person, and you'll know as a coach that's bought in and an athlete that's bought in, they're going to give you signs in the way they talk to you, the way they show up in the workouts, and you're just able to kind of give them that nice next kick in the butt to progress.
Yeah, sometimes you just gotta push them. So for us, we dabble in the area of recruiting, so we definitely have like a whole recruiting section that will help some of these boys and girls get into college, and we touch a little bit on strength training. What are some things that parents need to know to provide for their athletes at that recruiting age, things that they should know before they get to college about the weight room and about strength training?
Whew, that's a big question. So let's use you as an example. High school Amy, what are some things you did a lot of in your sport? Like what, jumping, landing, hitting, what were some things you did a lot of? Pick 2 or 3.
Yeah, for volleyball, it would have been jumping and landing. I'll count that as one though. Jumping and landing, lateral movement. So for volleyball, we have a lateral movement, and I guess I want to say hitting. I don't know how to put it into a good term. Shoulder. I use my shoulder a lot.
All right. So understanding your child's sports, like the physical demand of that, that's where a conversation with your coach comes into play. Like talking to your coach, talking to the people on their staff. I shouldn't say most, quite a few. I don't know how to, not all of them, but they all should have athletic trainers. Going and talking to that staff, they're going to be able to help put you on the right track for understanding physically what the demands are of your child's sport if you're not aware. And then if you are seeking extra strength and conditioning, or even what the high school is offering, the staff should understand what the needs of that sport, and then be able to apply that to the foundation of your child's body, the youth's body. So jumping and landing, the mechanics for that, super important. Like, we need to understand that before we're adding intensity, speed, endurance, anything like that. Lateral movement, same thing. Making sure your student and the coach, your strength and conditioning coach, understand how to coach lateral movement, how to progress it, how to strengthen them. And then we'll get to the shoulder and wrap all this together. The common thing in a lot of programs is, well, we jump a lot, so we should jump a lot in our strength and conditioning. And that's not necessarily the case. In the off season, obviously, we'll have a ramp up to general capacity for those things, but your muscles are connected to your bones via tendons. You have all this lovely connective tissue in your body, and that connective tissue in your muscles, I'm going to get super nerdy on this for everyone, requires not only your sport-specific movements, which is what you're talking about, but load, time under tension, tempo is what they call it. Tempo is also something it needs, which is what we call it in strength and conditioning. So that's looking at how your body moves, similar movements to what you're doing in your sport, but under different stimulus, different stressors, which is going to help strengthen and keep your child healthy. So if you're jumping a lot in your sport and your strength and conditioning is just you jumping more, you need to slow things down. You need to load it more. You need to spend paused, so they'll pause reps, isometric, some coaches will call it. It needs, the tempo is like slower on the way down, pausing, fast on the way up, or controlling the speed. And all of that is going to be in a quality strength and conditioning program. So you're looking for people, I guess, to come back out of the nerd weeds. I didn't want to get too deep down that hole. Is you want someone that's knowledgeable, that understands the sport, and also human physiology and how our connective tissue responds to stress, because that's when you're going to see quote unquote the overuse injuries. It's not so much overuse. Our bodies are amazing tools. It's amazing what they can do, the stress they can adapt to and withstand. So it's not so much an overuse injury as it just is we need more diversity. Going back to what I was talking about at the very beginning, your body craves it, from your connective tissue to your bones to your muscles to your joints. It craves that diversity, and that's I was on you. I have a weird memory for athletes I've coached and their needs and what they respond to and what they argue against. And for you, your shoulders are definitely one of them. You knew you needed to do the work, but you're like,
upper body, man.
Upper body, and I don't know if that's we can dive into even with this. If it's some kind of like pop culture social thing, like women are afraid they're going to get bulky or whatever. It's not going to happen. I can crush that right now. You're going to be strong. You're going to be healthy. You're going to be functional for your sport. Hopefully injury free or less injuries from doing your upper body work. So more upper body rowing for any kind of throwing or hitting athlete, volleyball especially. So vertical rowing, horizontal rowing. I'll do a quick plug to make it easier for people. The only endorsement I've ever received from this company is they funded my senior capstone project when I graduated for research. But crossover symmetry, I know you have a band company that you talk about on your social media, and I forget the name of it, so I apologize.
Volley bands.
Yeah, there you go.
Wisconsin guy.
There you go. Anything like that, get your hands on, and do it as a family, adults included. Like posture, position, all of that's super important for all of us. So do it with your family. Make it a family event. Who can do it for the best for quality? Have some kind of prize. Make it a competition. But yeah, more rowing and more pulling for the shoulders, and I think we'd see a lot of nagging overhead injuries go away. We can dive in from there on individual sport specific shoulder care, but I don't need to bore people with that as well. So that's a good start. Get yourself some bands.
Yeah, but Bill, like, again, going back to that passion thing, like, you're very passionate about this, and you are the kind of person that if parents and athletes are really serious about it, we want that nerdiness. We want to know kind of the ins and outs. Like, this really sets the standard. So parents, if you go look for strength training programs here in Northern Virginia or wherever you live, you want to hear that that's science-based and that's knowledgeable and passionate about what they're talking about, because then they know that your child's going to be safe and they're going to have fun and they're going to make improvements, hopefully. So that kind of segues into, it's always, it's all about, it's a cliche, right? But it's all about the journey. It's all about the path. But sometimes you can get really impatient. So I know, like, when we're talking about upper body and different things, I definitely felt like a strong wimp. Like, I was probably experiencing results, but I didn't really feel it, or I didn't feel like I saw it. So we have to kind of help set that expectation on when do you expect results, or how should you approach feeling that, like, maybe frustration, or kind of setting the bar of, here's this program I'm investing in for my athlete, but nothing's happening.
That is a great question, and I'm gonna need the next hour of everyone's time. No, so I guess to have some kind of time domain. So that this is something I talk about with youth and adults, is you need that stressor, that date. Take school, for instance, all the assignments have a due date, or work. We all have projects that are due. We need that in order to, hold ourselves accountable, kind of kick in that fight or flight response at some point where we actually we start to do the work. So having a date D1, for example, we do 8 to 12 week cycles, and then we have some form of test at the end for something that we've been working on throughout that period. That's super important. And let's say you've been doing the physical work in the gym, and we get to that 8-week period, you do the testing, but you haven't progressed. You haven't gotten gains, as I call it. Well, then that's where we come back and we look at all the other aspects of your life, right? So this is an hour of your day, 30 minutes to 2 hours, depending on how long you're training. What are you doing for the other 24 hours of the day? We need to start looking at that, because the idea of balance, like you were talking about earlier, well, the balance where I look at it as a coach is the balance of your overall life. You're not doing each of these things in a vacuum. You're not a volleyball player. You're not an athlete. You're not a student. You are you, and all of those things are part of your identity. And I'm assuming most of us get up every morning and we want to be great, do great things, and be awesome. Like you don't wake up in the morning, mental health outside, obviously. When we're operating at our best, we wake up and we want to do great things. We don't wake up and want to fail. We don't want to be mean. We don't want to do these things. So remembering that, and then looking at the rest of us. Are we sleeping? Are we eating? What does the food look like? What does stress management look like outside of our training? The training stress is a very small part of the rest of your life stress. So having that conversation with people is a huge part of my job as well, because they're checking the boxes. Oh, I'm working out, doing this. Like, yeah, but there's 40 other things on that list. You can't just check the box that you worked out and expect results. There's all of these other pieces that fit into a healthful life that we have to look at. So that's where that all comes into. And then that's part of the journey, right? You can pick apart those other things and create micro goals for yourself if that's what you need to stay on the path.
Yeah, I totally agree about checking the boxes. I feel like sometimes, our athletes and our parents come through and they're like, we signed up for lessons, we signed up for camp, we signed up for strength training, we're checking all the boxes, but nothing's happening. And it definitely goes back to, the desire and the want to play the sport that you're going after, or maybe you want to do something else, but having those open conversations between, strength trainer, coach, athlete, parent, anyone else involved, it's really going to help create this whole cycle of competition and sports to be what you expect it to be. But without setting those, you got to set the bar and you have to check the boxes, but you got to check what's on the outside of the boxes too.
Exactly.
All right, Bill, any final thoughts here?
Dog in the background. No, I think we covered a ton for people, and thanks again for having me on, Amy. Really appreciate hopefully being able to help some people.
Yeah, I really appreciate your time, and I love the passion that you bring into the gym every day, and especially with, all the way from rookies to adults, from 5 a.m. to, what do you guys are going to like 8 p.m. now, aren't you?
No, we're not going that late.
Okay.
Thankfully, maybe not yet, hopefully. But yeah, we're usually wrapped up around 7:30.
Yeah, but more than 12 hours a day.
Oh yeah.
I love it.
It's 5 to 9, not 9 to 5 in this world. So.
All right. Well,
appreciate the love.
Thanks, Bill. Great to see you.
You as well, Amy. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.